Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name is Tony Ingram, and this is January 10th, 2018. Walk in the Park. You can see all my episodes on public access television in Ithaca, New York, Channel 13. We'll talk about that in a second. Or you can go online and you can watch them online at my website at walkinthepark.tv, walkinthepark.tv. That is the URL. So this is a public access weekly series produced in Ithaca, New York. And you can find about all of our series and how to become a producer yourself and so forth at pegasus.webstarts.com. That's our website. You can see the schedule of the programs coming up and particularly the series. And you can also go to our Facebook page at Pegasus TV, and you can like that. And we post what's coming up there too. And also some of the shows, links to the online showings are there as well. And consider becoming a producer yourself because this is a community media, community television, and part of the cable bill that you pay, a very small part of it, does go to support this studio. And we have studios here and equipment that you can borrow once you become certified as a producer and sign all the necessary paperwork and that sort of thing. And you can become a producer of your own television show and say what you want to say in this community. So this time we're going to take a winter walk to Lucifer Falls in Robert H. Treman State Park. And that's a pretty cool thing. Years ago, you weren't even able to do that, weren't even able to see that waterfall in the wintertime. But before we do that, we're going to look at a new video that just came out this week by the Finger Lakes Land Trust, which is sort of a Happy New Year 2018 video. And it's got some neat images on it. So stand by. We'll get that one up here right now, coming up. Cue it right on up. That was really sweet, wasn't it? All those nighttime, probably infrared camera views of our wildlife around here. So the Finger Lakes Land Trust is saving land, creating parks and trails and public access, and for in perpetuity for us all, and protect our watersheds, protect our unique wild areas, and improve access to things like lakeshore. A lot of different things they do, and they also conserve a lot of land through conservation easements on people's land, so that we'll protect it after they no longer own it if they don't, keep it. So anyway, this is Walk in the Park, walkinthepark.tv. You can go to the website and see all of my episodes. This one will first be showing on Thursday, January 11th. It's recorded on the 10th, Wednesday the 10th. So on Channel 13 in Ithaca, New York. So now we're going to go to Lucifer Falls in Robert H. Treman State Park. Of course, you probably know, unless you're looking at this from somewhere else, you don't really know the area. Robert H. Treman State Park is southwest of the city of Ithaca, maybe 3 miles or so. And we're going to go to the left-hand side of it there. You can see just above the B on Robert, up in there. That's the upper park, and that is where the big waterfall in the park is, Lucifer Falls in the upper gorge. Spectacular place. And most of us have been there in the summertime. You can walk into Lucifer Falls, and you can also walk on what's called the South Rim Trail, which you'll see, which is goes around the ridge on the left there, and he comes around and looks back at the falls. So let's go take a look at Lucifer Falls in the winter. We're going to walk in there. I did this actually on Monday and did it with a GoPro camera that I just happened to get. So let's take a look. So I begin my winter walk to Lucifer Falls out by the old mill, and here you can see the parking lot by the mill is blocked off, and actually there's another parking area that is plowed that's across the bridge that I just came over, and you park there and you walk across the bridge here and you head towards the beginning of the trail, which is the beginning of all the trails here. Here you can see I have my walking poles. I just got these trekking poles. They take a little stress off my knees and so forth, especially in this uneven ground and in the snow. So it's fun. I'm just trying them out. It's the first time. So there's the interpretive sign that tells you how to get the layout of the trails, and you walk along the edge of what is the parking lot, though you can't see it here. The lawn on the right and the parking lot on the left normally. But we're heading down, and we're heading down towards the pavilion, the picnic pavilion in the upper park here, and you can see right in the center of the picture there, you can see the bridge that goes across Butternut Creek, or what's it called? It's the bridge. It's the Butternut Creek or Fishkill Creek that feeds into Enfield Creek, which goes down through the gorge. And of course, we're not going to go down through the gorge because the gorge is closed. It's wintertime. The gorge is full of ice and snow, and as you'll see later, it's pretty dangerous. There's quite a lot of ice on the falls. We'll see them. It's not quite visible on the trail, but there can be some very icy places along the trail. Look at that old millstone there that was washed out around the mill around 1935 or so. Here's the bridge that was rebuilt. At least the parapets on top of the bridge here were rebuilt after the flood. I think it was 2015. And here's the trail sign. Shows the to the left is the trail that goes into the gorge, and then up straight ahead, it says Rim Trail there, is the trail that goes up on the rim, and that is open in the wintertime, conditions permitting, and they do recommend you carry trekking poles like I've got, because the trail is pretty uneven, even as you see as we're going up here. That's can get ice packed down on it. I remember, I think it was last winter, it was even closed for a while because of the ice. So you can see the trail is climbing up above the picnic area in the area down by the stream. So you can look at the footing there. It's lots of roots. I mean, many people are familiar with this trail. This is not a secret trail at all. It's a very popular trail. But years ago, they didn't used to have it open in the winter, but now it is, as I say, conditions permitting. And they have put up some temporary fence here, some seasonal fence, to make it safer so you don't slip off and roll down the hill. And here we're coming up to a bridge that was rebuilt by park staff just a couple of years ago, I think. And we'll cross that. There's a little drainage here. It's been so cold, you might notice there was a little bit of ice on the right there in that little temporary runoff area. And then here's another section of it, crossing another area of runoff. Look at the ice on the right. See the ice? Yeah. So it's been so cold. That's why I'm going back to Lucifer Falls now. We're expecting to have a thaw later this week. This is, was it January 8th, Monday, January 8th. So it's a little bit milder than it's been. It's been like down around zero for a number of days, even below zero at times. And So, we're heading. I wanted to get back to Lucifer Falls to see it. While it still has ice on it, because maybe we'll have a big thaw later in the week and might lose some of the ice, so this should be an interesting spectacle. But we're not there yet. It's about a 15-minute walk, I suppose, maybe 20 minutes if you take your time. And here we walk up. We're up on a height here in a hemlock grove, hemlock trees. And I don't know how they're going to fare. Probably not too well with the hemlock woolly adelgid, which is an insect, scale-like insect that feeds on the needles and kills them, and then so over a number of years the foliage thins out. And so Enfield Glen in Robert H. Treman State Park has a lot of hemlock trees, and they're part of the certainly part of the aesthetic charm of the park, but they're also important for stabilizing the slopes and the soil and so forth, and also for keeping the stream cool. The sunlight gets in there too much, the stream warms up, that drives the oxygen out of the water, and fish like trout and so forth can't do well there. So I'm continuing my walk up the hill here. We have an incline for a while, it goes up into the forest. And here you can see a white marker on the tree on the left there, just past. And I think that's the Finger Lakes Trail. The Finger Lakes Trail has been rerouted somewhat because of a bridge washout. Oh, that was about 4.5 years ago. I think it was 2013, or maybe it was the 2015 flood. Anyway, one of those floods, it probably was a 2015 flood that not only to take out the stonework on the top of that first footbridge we went over there, but also upstream it washed out a bridge that the Finger Lakes Trail had gone over, so they've had to shift it over. Here's another marker coming up on the left. That white paint marker, it's not snow, that's paint. That is a Finger Lakes Trail marker, so I guess we're technically on the Finger Lakes Trail. At least it's routing now. I know there's discussion of or intention to rebuild at least a footbridge where that old bridge was, where the trail crossed Butternut Creek, Fishkill Creek, which was the one that goes behind the mill, powered the mill, and so forth. Here's the first overlook. This is a very old overlook, looking into the upper gorge a little bit there, which is you can't get a very good view, but it's all closed now because of the ice and snow and loose rock. One of the things that people don't understand when they are considering going into our gorges during the winter or the early spring, when they haven't been opened up yet, is that not only do you have ice formations to negotiate on the trail, which can be quite treacherous and slide you off into the icy stream or worse, but the shale rock is very susceptible to freezing and thawing effects. That water gets into the thin layers of shale and soaks into the clay actually the shale is made out of, and when it freezes it expands and splits it up, crumbles it, and it can come down on you. So you shouldn't go into the gorges even if the ice appears to be gone until they do what's called scaling. And if you go back in previous episodes from this spring, actually April I think it was, and a whole show on scaling, and that was pretty amazing. I went out there with the scalers, the people that rappel down the cliffs and take off all that winter loosened rock as much as is humanly reasonable to get off to make the trail as safe as possible. And then they can open the trail, but not before. So don't go venturing off into these gorges if you think they are safe, because someone else who manages them knows the conditions, and they will make the professional decision as to whether the trail is safe or not to enter. And certainly this Gorge Trail, the Upper Gorge Trail in particular, is not safe in the winter. There have been fatalities in there over the years. People that have ventured in the winter. I remember one time, when I worked for parks, I heard a story back of a woman in the 70s who slid into the stream and was washed under the ice, and her body was not retrieved until the fall. Until the spring. And so that's a pretty gruesome story. Anyway, so we're higher up. We've got pretty much as high as we're going to get on this section of trail. You can see the the safety fencing on the left there, keeping you from venturing down into sliding into the gorge or whatever. So the gorge is down below, but we're up above it. And now we're going to start descending, and we're going to come down to, well, it'll be in a moment here, we're going to come down to an overlook, which is right above Lucifer Falls, right above the brink of Lucifer Falls. So you can't really see much of the falls during normal weather. But during the wintertime, there are stone steps that go down there, as you'll see in a moment. And they are, you can see this is a pretty uneven surface here that I'm being careful to go down, using my trekking poles to help me negotiate this steep slope with its roots and what have you. And this section of trail also has a bit of a rough time because it gets a lot of water runoff, and it can make it a very uneven surface. So anyway, you can see some snow fence down there, and that has been put up to discourage people from going down the stone steps. They go to the lovely overlook over Lucifer Falls, but the problem with stone steps like these that you'll see momentarily here is they can get iced up, and people have been seriously hurt, or even a fatality at Teganic Falls. Okay, when we're looking down, there's the stone steps, there's the fence that some people have gone around, trampled around. In fact, I saw a man, a little boy, do that just this day. And it continues along here, sections of this fence to keep people from, or at least try to discourage people from going down there, making it obvious that that's closed off. So anyway, I was talking about the danger of stone steps, and a number of years ago, at least 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, when I worked at the regional office at Treman State Park, one winter there was a couple that did try to climb up the stone steps that go up to the North Rim Trail at Teganic Falls, and it was all iced up, and a woman slipped on the ice and got badly hurt, and had to be, her partner, guy, tried to carry her out when she was injured, and got up on the side of the trail, I think, and tried to descend this very steep slope by the stone steps, and he slipped, and she fell again, and it killed her. They're actually students at the New York Chiropractic College, which is up in Seneca Falls. So that was a great tragedy. So those steps are closed off just as these are, and there might be times when the steps look okay, but they can't be out there every day and say, well, there's ice here, isn't ice there. Or you might start down an area of steps and say, well, that looks fine, and then you get into trouble farther down, and then we're not going to rely upon you to make a decision as to whether it's safe to go on or not, but rather it's safer all around to just like close them off until it is safe, until we know it's safe. And so here we're crossing a little stream that comes down, and this one actually pours off the side of the gorge near Lucifer Falls, but it's all iced up now. But this is we're on the south rim here of the gorge, and so there's a little tributary comes out. Look how that's iced up in the sub-zero weather we've had. And continue down. We're not far from the overlook to Lucifer Falls here, so we'll keep trudging along and go around the bend here. Here's some more safety fencing because it starts to get steeper, and we'll be swinging around here in a moment to look back at Lucifer Falls. I think, like I mentioned earlier, you used to not be able to do this, and people would go back and get pictures of Lucifer Falls in the winter, and of course they had to go on a closed trail to do that, and so there weren't very many pictures that you could get back then. I had a few when I worked in the parks. I could show to people, but in general the public could not get to see this. But for several years now, the trail has been open to this point, getting up to Lucifer Falls. We're coming up now. If you look in just left of center, there is the wall, which is at the overlook, looking back at Lucifer Falls. So that's a great spot. Now there is some fencing, some temporary snow fencing that's been put up there, and there are some fence posts, but people have trampled it down. In fact, looks like people have even stood on that wall, which is a pretty stupid thing to do. There was a fatality once of somebody that fell off that cliff, so and especially in icy conditions. So we're looking across to Lucifer Falls here now, and we'll get a couple of other views there. Well, this is not quite the end of this section of the trail that's open. We'll turn around and continue on here for maybe another 50 yards or so, and along this little bench here, plateau, whatever you want to call it. And we're heading towards the top of the cliff staircase. And this is a really long staircase. I imagine if you've gone down it, you remember it. If you've gone up it, you remember it even more. And this takes you down into the lower gorge. And also there's views going down to the main section of the, what they call the interglacial gorge. Geologists do. There's a whole story behind that, which I've talked about from time to time. And notice there's a gate closing off. You can see the steps. And once again, the steps are treacherous in winter. And don't underestimate that danger. But we do get a little peek here around the gate, just looking down to that view down the glen. It goes another mile or mile and a half down to the lower park. A couple of other big cliffs down there, and some, of course, the waterfalls down in the lower park in the camping area. So, but the Gorge Trail and the South Rim Trail, which we're on, the South Rim Trail is closed from here on, and so that's it. You turn around from here, you go back to the falls, and this is a great spot though. Come back in the summer, come back in the spring, like May or something, and this will be open. But really take those trail closed signs seriously, because people can get into some pretty serious trouble, and it's also no fun for rescuers to go in and get people out. And so we're going to go back again now and take a look at a little bit closer look at the waterfall. And Lucifer Falls, 115 feet high. And there's a whole geologic story about that, which I've told in other places, and we're going to get a look at it here. It's actually eroded back from where the gorges change into that wide wooded gorge just below, eroded back over the last 12,000 years or so. And so here we go. This is Lucifer Falls, and great place, beautiful. Look at the ice, and I just had to slow myself down from the photography and turn the camera off and just really dig on this ice in this scene. And that's one of the problems with photography, is you get too hung up with the actual taking of the photographs without paying attention to the fact that your mind is a photograph, is a camera, and it's nice to create some real lasting impressions, because they use all of your senses, and you're right there. And there's no photograph that can do that for you, no video that can do that for you. So, Lucifer Falls, 115 feet high. Now there's a trail. You can see the trail at the base of the cliff over there, above the falls. I'm sure some people have gone down in there. I don't know what the conditions are all along the trail, but that's just going to get worse and worse through the winter. Once again, see those big cliffs, and those are dangerous places. You can get rocks falling. Okay, so you can go to that overlook in Lucifer Falls and Robert H. Treman State Park, go up to the upper park and go along the South Rim Trail. And it's still maybe like a 15-minute walk, like I said. But watch your footing. There'll be, a lot of people have packed the snow down with their boots, and it gets pretty icy. So thank you all for joining me, and turn off this screen and go out for a walk in the park. This is a ending image here of Teganic Falls from the air by Bill Hecht.